What I need to do for me and hopefully for you is to take you way back so that there is a basis for understanding. And I'm going to take you way, way back into the history of Dr. Charles Schwartz before he became Dr. Schwartz. The vast majority of you do not know that I was a learning disabled child. I had attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and I had dyslexia. In a world where those words had not yet come into existence. And so I was viewed by the administration and teachers as a problem child because I couldn't sit still. I would talk out of turn, and I couldn't read. And having worked as an adult in the public schools, I can only imagine what the teachers thought when they saw me on the list of children in their classes. I was a halfway decent athlete, and so I had some friends because I could throw and catch and I could run. But for the most part, my peers didn't go out of their way because I didn't know it, but I was different. The big change for me came when I was in 5th grade. My classroom teacher was out sick, and we had a substitute. Whether the teacher had left a note or not, I don't know, but a reading lesson was going on. The teacher asked a question. I raised my hand, and she called on me. And I responded. The following day, my regular classroom teacher returned, read the note from the substitute teacher, called me up to the desk, opened the reader, pointed and said, "Charles, read this for me," which I did. This was a long time ago, and so what happened next would probably not occur in today's world. She got up, took her clipboard, called one of the girls in the class up, said, "Write down anyone's name who causes a problem. I'll be back. Charles, come with me." We went out into the hall and ended up in the principal's office. And I can remember vividly that day because the dark mahogany bench with the slats in it was where I was told to sit. The teacher went into the principal's office, which had starburst glass, so you could not see through. I sat there. I heard them mumbling. The teacher came out. She said, "Charles, wait." And I sat there for about an hour and a half. About an hour and a half later, my parents showed up. My mother looked at me, shook her head, and said, "It never ends with you. Every Monday and Thursday, I'm in the principal's office with you." Now, that was an exaggeration, but you know what the mood was. They went into the principal's office. I don't know how long, but it was forever. When they came out, my mother was nodding her head, and my father said in a not loving voice, "Come." When we got into my father's car, they were in the front seat, I was in the back. My mother said, "Now you've done it." And I said, "What did I do?" And they said, "You've been suspended from school." The principal said, "You are the most insidious child she has ever met. Anyone who could play and make people believe that they couldn't read has a criminal mind, and you cannot return to school until you have a psychiatric evaluation." Well, my parents took me for a psychiatric evaluation. It was 3 or 4 sessions. And at the end of the 4th session, the doctor said to my parents, "I'm not sure I fully understand, but your son is not lying. He is telling the truth, and I am writing you a letter to have the school reinstate." I had to be reinstated. The story is almost over. It didn't say how I was to be reinstated. My desk was taken out into the hall, and if any of you are aware, all public buildings have doors that open outward, so you can be locked out, but you cannot be locked in. And I was put out into the hall behind the door so that I could look through the crack in the wall, between the door and the wall. And I spent the last month and a half with kids coming past me, running down the hall, making faces and making fun of me. Why do I tell you this? Because it helped me understand as I grew what AccuWeight Loss is all about and what I want to talk with you about today. By the way, when I'm tired, the dyslexia shows up, and I hate reading because I fall asleep. but I love books on tape and the computer because I can jump from one thing to the other. Now, one last thing in this saga. I became a psychologist and worked for many, many years in both the public schools and in private practice. One day, on the way to work, there was a voice in my head. And the voice said, "It's such a beautiful day. Where are you going?" I don't know if it was my child self, but I responded and said, "I'm going to work." And the voice said, "Your patients, they'll put up with you." I got to the office, and it was one of the most difficult sessions I had ever had because the voice bothered me throughout the session, and I couldn't wait until the patient was gone. I had no idea. Nowadays, I do. It's a word called burnout. I had no idea at that point in time what it was. But I had to work even harder at my job to give my patients the help that I was trained to give them, because periodically that voice would, in the middle of a session, bother me. I realized the end was near. And that's when two things happened. First of all, I started eating like there was no tomorrow. I'm about 6'1" now. I was just a bit more than 6'2" then. And when I was graduated college, I weighed 149 pounds. I'm not sure how many months later I was approaching 300. And my wife was controlling me, and so I agreed to do something. And every single day for lunch, I went to a Chinese restaurant near me, ordered steamed vegetables and a diet soda, and spent my lunch hour there. And that's where I met Dr. Chu. And the experience in my life turned into weight loss. And that's what I want to talk with you about. You see, weight loss is not a diet, and it's not a way of life. No diet, in the sense of restricting calories, should be rigid and be a way of life. Dr. Chu taught me that weight loss, the program part, 2 days milk, 2 days fruits and vegetables, are not a way of life. You're doing it because you want to lose weight. You're doing it because you're unhappy with yourself. And like me, many of you, if not all of you, are using food for comfort and for escape. What that taught me was that as long as I did not make myself important in my own life, as long as I kept running and using food for escape, nothing would ever change. And one of the most remarkable things was Dr. Chu was 30 years my junior. And here I was, someone 30 years older than him, sitting at his feet and lapping it up. I was fortunate. I had him in my life for 7 years. He taught me so much. And now I want to translate this into the next period of time between you and AccuWeight. So let's understand what's going on. This past month has been extremely enlightening and has been remarkably exciting for me. I am constantly meeting people who are telling me that they're being able on a regular basis to share without fear with at least one other person on a regular basis, and with many more than once a day, has been not only helpful, but it's begun to change them. Now, the reason for the change is so many of you, and you know you're overweight, are concerned, are embarrassed, are fearful of sharing what it is that you're doing, and therefore you do other things to hide that fact. And having someone whom you can talk to on a regular basis, who is open and honest and is getting the same thing from you as you are giving to them, allows you and these people that I've spoken to the ability to stay focused on the program and have lost weight. I met a girl in her early 20s. She had lost over 100 pounds. And what she was telling me was she had buddied up with another girl that she knew. Neither of them was sharing in public what they were doing. But what they did was hide in various camouflaging ways when they were with other people. So they did have a social life, but they did not eat with other people. And the mere fact that each of them had someone was the support that they needed, because there was at least one other person out there who was living life the way they were living life. And the fact that they could talk to someone was the key. You've heard me talk about Rosa, who lost 157 pounds on our program in 11 months. She was able to lose that weight because she had a spouse who was totally committed to being supportive of her. They did marketing together. They prepared food together. And it took 11 months. And the goal was reached. Food has incredible power. Within the first few hours of life, we are comforted with food. And we continue to be comforted with food. And the nipple from the breast or the bottle is extremely powerful. That's not going to change, because in our unconscious mind, when we are under pressure, to use food is not unrealistic. So we have to accept the fact that that's going to happen. So here is one of the keys. If you go on a diet after you reach your goal, you're going to fail, because you're going to end up going back to your old habits. So what you need to do is design a personal lifestyle that works for you. Think of this in a very simplistic way. I hand you the best maintenance program in the world. And because you've been successful on the program and you have a relationship with me, you start to do it. And because it's the best maintenance program in the world, it works. But not too long after you start this maintenance program, you begin to realize you're living your life the way I have told you to live it, not the way you want to live it. And that's where Dr. Chu's brilliance. He said, who knows more about what you want and need than you? And therefore, let's design a program based on what you want. So the only person you have to answer to is yourself. If we're not asking questions, if we're not communicating with other people, if we cannot share for whatever the reason, I'm going to give you one of my truths. It has to do with dieting. It has to do with eating. Now, first and foremost, I observe the Jewish dietary laws. So my eating compared to most Americans is restricted. And one of the things that I've noticed is going out with other people And here is an acquaintance of mine sitting across the table from me, and they order lobster. And I order a salad. Now, I'm making this all up, but I want you to follow with me. And I watch them enjoying that lobster. And they say to me, you know, you don't know what you're missing. And the thought always in my head is, you're right. I don't know what I'm missing. And therefore, except for the sense of pressure that I'm getting from you, which I don't verbalize, it's not an issue. And so I respectfully decline tasting it. And you want to know what I've discovered? Unless my behavior impacts on them, they don't care whether I join them in the lobster or whatever else it is that they're eating. Because they're enjoying themselves. I'm holding up my end of the conversation. And I don't get into a discussion of it. I simply say, I thank you and I appreciate what it is that you're saying, but this is something I need to do for me. And, you know, I'm enjoying myself just being with you and having this conversation. We have to begin to develop a methodology where we're communicating with people, where we're opening up, where we're feeling good about what it is we're doing. And as we lose the weight and our bodies change, so much other changes in our life. Communication is the key. Structure has to be yours. And doing the program is a choice. When I did it, by the way, I lost 84 pounds in 3 months. I hated the program because I was restricting myself from all that stuff. You want to know something? It was the best 3 months of my life because I began to recognize that the more I was in control of me, the better I felt about me. And you know something? It was much, much clearer that the only thing I could control was me. And if you're going to like me, you're going to like me because of who I am and how we get along. If you're not going to like me, you're trying to make it my problem. But I don't want it to be my problem. Because if I went out to lunch with you, what a reason. It's because I wanted, and I'm going to make sure that I enjoy myself with you, and I'm not going to pick up on any of those issues. Let's talk about it more. Give me some feedback. And Hans, I think I'm going to go to questions and answers. Now, Hans emailed me a list of questions, and if any come in by email or any of the other methodologies, Hans, after I'm finished with a question, please interrupt and let us know, and I'm going to start now with the list that I have. Question number 1. How important is the breathing? Now, first and foremost, let me make it very clear. The Qigong breathing was added to the program by Dr. Chu. It is not part of the original program as it's taught by the Chinese. Dr. Chu added it because he wanted to increase the flow of oxygen through your body, which gives you energy and does so many wonderful things for you. Now, how important is the breathing? I've learned so much that I'm going to say you would be extremely foolish if you did not incorporate the Qigong breathing into your regimen. Why? It stops you, it centers you, it relaxes you, it's a form of meditation, and it reminds you that you are in control of you. Because unless you say, do the breathing, and do the breathing, when you breathe, you realize you've taken control, because there are so many things out there saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you can't take the time. But taking the time to do the breathing makes you aware that you are in control of yourself. But there is something else that I discovered, and it's being supported, is that the Qigong breathing in little pieces causes the body to increase its production of an enzyme called telomerase. Telomerase is the enzyme the body uses to rebuild the telomeres at the tips of your DNA. It makes you healthier, and it will increase longevity. Now, I think that's a pretty good reason to incorporate it into your lifestyle even after you finish phase 1 of the program. Question number 2. I hate the taste of milk. Is there an alternative? We have several substitutes. Speak to your consultant. I have a bias. I do not recommend soy milk because of the phytoestrogens, but the other substitutes are really good, and the only thing, and speak to your consultant about it, I want you to add to any of the vegan substitutes conjugated linoleic acid, or send me an email and I'll either call you or talk to you. Question number 3. Can I have the office I go to put 2 sets of beads on me so I don't have to come every week? It's not something that I would recommend. What I would recommend, however, is that you speak to your consultant about our recently patented acupoint finder and see how you can incorporate that into your regimen so that you will not need to come every week. Question number 4. Do some placements work better than others, as I am much hungrier this week? The answer is no. All placements are equal. Hormonally and physiologically, each week is different for all of us. So that depending upon what's going on, whether you've altered this or that, think of 12 light switches. Each of those light switches control that light. Every week, 7 to 9 days, the switch that is working, 7th day less, 8th day less, 9th day it stops working, and another one of those 11 of the 12 now will transfer its power. So the beads need to be changed every 7 to 9 days, but from a functional point of view, there is no difference. Are we allowed vegan eggs? I saw people on Facebook talking about them. The answer about vegan eggs is I'm uncertain. It's the ingredients. Many vegan eggs are made with starch and tapioca. Now, tapioca is a form of starch, and potatoes, for example, are another starch which we're not allowed to have. So I can only answer that question on an individualized basis. So unless I know the ingredients, my answer is no vegan eggs. What is the best way to determine my goal weight? That's a simple question. If you're female, pick a dress size. If you're a guy, pick a waist size. Since it's so cold, it makes it hard to drink my water. What do you recommend? I recommend that you use water at room temperature. I personally love tea, and I am constantly drinking different herbal teas and regular tea. One, to get in all my water, and one, because I like the flavors. Water is critical. And the reason it's critical, we are burning fat. The residue of the fat we burn is in our bodies. We need water to flush it out. You slow the weight loss process if you don't drink enough water. Will getting a flu shot have any impact on AccuWeight? I'm sorry, that little voice was in my head. The answer to the question is no. Taking the flu shot will in no way interfere with AccuWeight loss. What I was thinking, and I'll share that with you because I've only taken a flu shot once in my life, and my body did not react favorably. I got pretty ill. So I have not had a flu shot since that time. What I have done is work on my immune system, and have increased my intake of vitamin C, and thankfully I have not had any issue with flu for the last 15 years or so. Excuse me while I put my earpiece back in. Once I reach my desired goal and I start to transition and integrate other food back into my life, do I still have to eat within the time frame of 12 to 6? The answer to that is no. Your hours go from 12 to 2 hours before you go to bed. Remember that one of the keys to the program has been that you stopped eating at 6 and you did not eat again till 12 the following day. In the diet world, one of the biggest things that people are talking about is something called intermittent fasting. It's extremely helpful because your body during that period of time is cleansing, detoxifying, and relying on its own energy to get you through. Therefore, your job is to create a personal lifestyle, which is phase 2 and 3 of the program. And remember, 85% of the people who go through phase 2 and phase 3 on average are keeping the weight off on average for 7 years and growing. Next question. Can you still lose weight if you have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease? All thyroid conditions can impact on the program. And therefore, if you have any kind of thyroid condition, you need first some medical help to determine your levels and how it impacts on your body. I can say this though, 99% of the people who have done weight loss and have a thyroid condition, I'm going to lower it to 95%. 95% of people who've done weight loss and have a thyroid condition have been able to maintain once they create their own lifestyle. Oh, here's an interesting question. If I follow the diet without cheating and not using the beads or the breathing techniques, will we still lose 15 pounds in 30 days? Now, first, let's understand something. On the program, I promise you a minimum of 15 pounds every 30 days. If you do the diet, the food part of the program, without the beads, number one, your body is going to go into starvation mode. You're going to burn muscle, you're going to burn organ, you're going to leach minerals from the bones, and it will impact on your metabolism. The beads when massaged, send a neural impulse that stimulates a gland in your midbrain named the hypothalamus. That takes away hunger and blocks your brain from being able to count calories. If your body cannot count calories, your metabolism does not change. If your metabolism does not change, in early human times, the hunters would hunt, the people would eat. If the hunters were not successful, the people didn't eat. I call it evolution, but the body learned to store fat for the period of time between hunts. Since the brain is not reacting because it does not realize that the calories were taken away, your liver will turn to your own stored fat. You will burn fat converted into glycogen for energy. You will not burn muscle. You will not burn organ. You will not leach minerals from the bones. And it will not impact on your metabolism. You want to risk it? Be my guest. But don't come back to me afterward and say, Doc, even though I didn't do the breathing and I didn't do the beads, I was on your diet, how come I didn't lose the weight? I'm just going to smile at you and say, nothing feels as good as thin feels. I hate my salads without dressing. Do you have any suggestions? Well, since I created the one dressing that I'm excited about, I'm going to share that with you very quickly. Go to the supermarket, to the salad dressing department, where all the bottles are, and on the top shelf, you will see these envelopes of spices. One is Good Seasons dressing. The other is, and I'm having a senior moment, Farms. I forget the first word. I like the Good Seasons Italian and the ranch from the other. Take home that package of spices. Now take the meat of an avocado, put it in a blender, blend with water slowly until it looks like a salad dressing. Add powder spices from the packet to taste. It makes the most terrific dressing, and the oil from the avocado makes it stick on the salad. One extra piece. Avocado spoils very rapidly. So you make it, you use it, or it spoils. What I've discovered is if while blending, for each avocado that you use, you add a 500 milligram tablet of vitamin C, it will last for 6 days. I am hypoglycemic. Hans? I'm ready for the question. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat the question as I understand it. A person who's been on the program, lost 32 pounds, is transitioning, and is saying, I'm feeling hunger. First and foremost, if you remember in my talk, I indicated to you that food is used for comfort and for escape. Number two, you can live for weeks without food. You can only live for days without water. Three, it's a woman, and I'm not sure at this point in time, because I have not enough information, whether there are any hormonal issues. So the first thing that I would say is drink more water. The second thing that I would say is use the MAGIC protocol. The reason I created the MAGIC protocol is just for this reason. You are tempted to put something in your mouth to ease whatever it is you're feeling, which you've called hunger. From a caloric point of view, if you're on transition and maintenance, that makes no sense. So therefore, it's either dehydration or it's some emotional aspect that's impacting on you. And thirdly, don't deny that you want what it is that you want. The problem is that when you give in, and then you give in, and then you give in, you're in trouble. So I created the MAGIC protocol because it gives you the opportunity to comfort yourself and to recognize you're in control. I only have one kidney. Is the program safe for me? If your physician says that you are able to go on a weight loss program, the answer is yes. Next question. I heard caffeine is an appetite stimulant. Can I still drink my coffee while on the program? The answer to that is yes. If you find the caffeine is affecting you as far as hunger is concerned, I would go back to the previous questions, because one of the things that many people are not aware of is that coffee and tea are diuretics. So therefore, depending upon the amount of coffee or tea that you drink, if you're not replacing the electrolytes and drinking more water, that could be the problem. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope you found today helpful, and I would love it if any of you communicate with me by email, accusmoke@aol.com, or call my office, 973-243-0777. Leave your name, leave your number, and I'll have your number. Take care.